Here is a fun fact. So, I go to like a lot of these celebrity conventions. I love the 80s and 90s conventions. And then I can cover them a little bit for this podcast, but just, where BravoCon is not necessarily for me. I love these 80s and 90s conventions. Well, there's always one in Burbank, which is really from my front door, probably like 20 minutes from my house in LA. And I am going to be in LA during this convention. So there's a convention coming up in January, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I'll go. It's right near my house. But anyway, one of the guests at this Burbank convention coming up is the one, the only Kim Richards. Now, this was announced weeks ago. And when this was announced, I said to myself, I didn't say it on here or anywhere else. I said there was this incident in September with Kim, and I'm like, how is Kim going to go to this? Now look, let me also, for those of you that have never been to one of these celebrity conventions, BravoCon people kind of, you know, are announced and they show up. It's not really how it works with these 80s and 90s conventions. I mean, you're announced and you show up, but there are so many people that then these people are all flaky. So, like a week before, it could say canceled guest, 24 hours before, it could say canceled guest. It's not common, but it's not uncommon. It's like, it probably happens like 10% of the time. It's not the most unusual thing. So when this was announced, I said to myself, there's no way Kim Richards, after this thing that came out in September, is going to be at this convention, but maybe this is a good sign. Now, granted, I don't think Kim sits there and asks for permission to go to a convention by Kyle or Kathy. It really is just Kim interacting with, and really nobody is there to see her more or less because of Housewives. It's because of like the acting she did, when it's a bunch of people that were child stars. So, or stars from yesteryear. So, but sometimes there'll be a Housewife fan there. But the point is, you can go to this convention and be a little bit off. There have been celebrities at these conventions that have been drunk, that have been high. Like, I mean, it's really the fans are there. Like, think about BravoCon. If one of your favorite Bravo celebrities was having an off day, I mean, you'd probably be happy. So I'm not saying you can't go if you're going through a lot of personal things. I think you probably shouldn't because God knows what you're going to say or whose phone is going to be out. But when it was announced that Kim was going, I was like, I don't see how this is going to happen. Like, how is this going to happen? I found out this in like October, and I was like, maybe I need to stop saying that. Like, I'm worried about Kim because we had this incident in September, and then Kathy and Kyle will keep saying she's fine. Well, she's still on the schedule. I checked this morning when I saw this article. She's still on the schedule to be there in January, which, mind you, is the beginning of January. But mind you, that means nothing. There's 1,000 days between now and then of where she can cancel. But my point is, there is now a new report that has just resurfaced about Kim. And it's not great. It's not as bad, but there's just a situation that happened that Kim had to undergo a mental health evaluation just last weekend because of a strange encounter with the police. It started after so it said the encounter started after the 60-year-old, so Kim herself reportedly placed a call to cops on last Sunday afternoon, which led to a visit by the LAPD to Kim. She's still renting that same house by Kyle where the other incident happened. So she calls the police and they show up. Now, according to TMZ, Kim told the law enforcement officers that someone had taken her cat and returned it. Okay, so they take your cat. That's not great, but they return it. She then allegedly began to ramble about Kyle and their ongoing issues. Now, this is not the September issue. This just happened last weekend. So she calls the LAPD. They come and she's rambling that someone took her cat and they returned it, which that's kind of a reason to call, I guess. Like, who took your cat? And I mean, is there a cat thief in the neighborhood? But the cat's back, but still, that's pretty valid, I guess, reason to call. But now we're factoring in all this stuff that you start she's rambling to the police about Kyle. Now, I don't even know how that comes up. She's probably like, oh, you were here before 3 months ago. Well, actually, September to October. Yeah, 3 months ago in September, and this is Kyle's house. The point is, too much information. Shush with the police. Less is more. But she's rambling on about Kyle. And then it says Kim's odd behavior. So they're listening to her rant on about Kyle. Her odd behavior led the cops to call their mental health team. So as she's rambling, they call the mental health team to come and evaluate Kim. Ultimately, they determined Kim was not posing a danger to herself and others, and they did not take her in for an involuntary hold. Paramedics also showed up at Kim's home but left shortly after. First of all, I find that embarrassing, like when you have the neighbors looking on and there's like a million police cars in your driveway. I know, not the point. It's just, I don't know. I'd be a little bit embarrassed. But the point, I mean, really, I guess I say I don't care what people think, so I guess I really shouldn't. But I mean, in a way, I like to follow decorum. I don't know. This isn't about me. Who cares? So basically, this ended differently than the one in September, which led to Kim being taken for an involuntary 5150 hold after she was described as being incoherent and refusing to leave a Hilton hotel in Los Angeles. So the good news is they didn't take her in, but I mean, they arrived because you called them as they should and someone took your cat. Well, that is valid to call the police, but now you're rambling on about Kyle and your issues with your sister. I mean, again, just sign a contract to go back to the Beverly Hills Housewives. And so that's what led them to call the mental health team. Not really indicative of much, but not great, not great that the police come to respond to you and then have to call the mental health team. I am now going back again to saying I think there is about a 5% chance that Kim shows up at this convention. I will be monitoring it. I'm going if she's there. It's 20 minutes from my front door. So I will go and do boots on the ground and I will get information for all of you because Kim, I love my Kim Richards. So see, I'm excited by a couple of things in Housewives. I'm excited about Kim with this. Maybe I can say hi. And I'm excited about Dorit. I'm loving Dorit this season. So there's that. And again, Kathy and Kyle keep saying she's doing well. She's doing well. She's doing well. So I just had a fear for Kim. When I saw her show up on this convention, I was like, wow, I don't believe she's actually going to be there. Probably not a great idea to go to the convention if you're not in the greatest mental state, but the fans will love you regardless. You know, what happens when this is in Burbank, it's right down the street from a lot of people's houses, and they also make money. So it's kind of like a win-win. So, but let's TBD if she'll be there. I might go regardless, but if Kim Richards is there, I will 100% be there because it is so close to where I live and I will get information for all of you. And find the video I talked about with Erica. But the one thing I want to say before we wrap up and go, again, next week, there is no Beverly Hills, there is no Salt Lake, but this thing keeps resurfacing. Mia, did you guys see this? That Mia basically, after this episode or this, the time, I think it was 2 weeks ago or it was last week, it's all blending together where Mia, it came up on, the show where Mia was like, when we were on vacation and Gizelle's girls tried to sneak boys in, and she went on, and everyone's like, oh my God, the children are off limits, but she basically said, your daughters snuck people in, you snuck boys in, and now it has come out that she basically called the girls whores off air, and she begged producers and Gizelle begged producers not to put it in the show. Well, that is normally